Welcome back, everyone. When we last left our web dev heroes, we had begun with a homepage that was this bland. It did have a nav bar, no content, and then we are working on making it look like this. We've added the HTML, and so where we're at now is it looks like so. So at the end of the last video, if you missed this video and you want to get the HTML for this, you're going to have to go follow my next, or go back to my previous video. Also, in addition to this, this is also building off of the typography video I created, as well as the navbar video I created. I will probably package this all into one big playlist when I'm done. But we're ready now to start adding our CSS. We need to create a 3-column layout. Now, there's a couple of things we need to do to get prepped for this. Number one, this is not necessarily best practice for a production site, but I think it's best practice for initial design when you're working on a website. And what that is right now we have a link to 2 different style sheets, typography, navigation. We're going to create a third. We're going to do one for layout. In fact, I believe it was typography where we set the width. And so we're going to move that from typography and we're going to put it into the layout style sheet. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this link and I'm going to paste it with my other style sheet links. And we're going to need to do this on every page. And we're going to change typography to layout. Okay. So you're going to want to make sure you do this, and you want to make sure before you forget, you create that link, you put it in all of your pages. Okay. Remember, the whole point is we have external style sheets, and we link all of our pages to it. So I go to the CSS file, and I scroll up. I hit enter and paste. There it is, layout. And then I go to HTML, and I go to the top here, and I hit enter and I paste. And I open up the JavaScript page. I go to the end of that link and I paste. So when we're done, we should have links to all of to the layout style sheet on all of those pages. And from here on out, we're going to work on our CSS. But before we do, I just want to show you the code we're looking at so we can talk about how we're going to style this. We go back to the index page. It's our home page we're working on. Notice we have a section with a class of showcase, and in it we have 3 articles, each with a class of call3. The container element is our showcase. We're going to apply the flexbox to it, and then these will be its children, and they will line up just pretty, and we're going to do a couple other things to it. So the first thing we want to do is let's move over the code that was in the typography into the layout. And if you didn't do this, just follow the code. So I go to the CSS file in folder, and you'll see there's a navigation style sheet and a typography style sheet, no layout. So let's go ahead and create that page. So I'm going to right-click on CSS, and I'm going to right-click and choose New File, and we're going to call it layout.css. Layout.css, you got to add that .css, and we're going to open up the typography CSS. And it's this right here that I want to grab. So I'm actually going to cut this out. I'm just going to right-click and cut. And if you don't have it, don't worry, because we're going to put it into layout. So I go to layout, and then I'm going to paste. But before I do, I'm going to add a little comment header here. Okay. So we have the page on here. We're going to save our changes. Okay, so let's just test to make sure this works. Save the typography change you made. Make sure you save the layout. Make sure all your other pages are saved. And let's just make sure this still works. So before I do this, I'm just going to click on HTML, or I'll click on index, and then I'll go down where I see the little window to launch it. I don't see it. Well, we'll just go over here. This was the page. Hit refresh. Hit HTML, CSS, JavaScript. So it looks like they all have that styling on it. Okay, so we have our layout style sheet, and now we're ready to begin work. I'm going to split this to the right, and have the index homepage on the left so we can sort of identify what we're doing. The next thing I want to point out is if you look at the homepage, we don't have enough width to cleanly put 3 columns. So we're going to have to expand the width, but we only have to do this for the home page. Now, you're welcome to do it on all of your pages for consistent layout, but then it hurts typography. So for this case, we're going to expand it, but only on the home page. How are we going to do this? Well, what we can do is if we go to the top where we have that section ID of page, we can add a class over here. So we put class, and for the class, we're going to put it home. I don't believe you can put 2 IDs to a page. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. I'm just going to play it safe. Add a class of home, but only on index. Don't put it on any other page because that defeats the purpose. Okay, so now we have that page here, and now what we're going to do is we're going to target in layout page, and then we're not going to put a space. We're going to do hashtag page for the ID. We're going to put dot home. Now, you cannot have a space. If we have a space, we're indicating it's another tag inside of page, but it's actually the same tag itself. So by targeting it this way, hashtag page.home, no spaces, we're saying we're only going to target an element that has both the ID of page and a class of home. And we're going to set the width to, let's try, I don't remember what I did. We're going to try a 40 EM. Save our changes, and hopefully it will be wide enough. I don't know. We'll test it out. If it's not wide enough, we'll make it wider. Because we're dealing with a width that's already set, everything we do inside is now going to be percentages. Okay. So before we do, we're going to do what I learned from Bootstrap. And what Bootstrap does is we do a thing called box sizing. And what that means is if we do a box sizing, oh wait, that's, sorry, let me go back. All right, we need to, before we do this, we need to target the showcase. And in our showcase, we're going to do a display of flex. Save changes. Now watch what happens when I do that. They're already there. The only problem is they're all kind of crowded, and each column gets whatever width that the flexbox chooses should be the right amount of width. And we don't have borders, we don't have padding, and so one of the things I'd like to do is add a little bit of a margin in between our 2 items. So for that, we're going to add another style to each of these articles. They have a class of call3. So I targeted as call3. Now we're going to do the box sizing. Now this is based on the box model. If you've seen my other videos, if you've heard anything about the box model, it is how by default any block level tag gets displayed. And the way it is the width of your box will be the width of the content only, and any padding and any borders go outside. So if we set box sizing, we can choose where we set the width. Is it the width is the content box? Is the width the border? Or is it padding? If we set border, that means we can add a border, and the border will be taken into account with the width. And so I generally like to do that if I choose to add a border. So we're going to do that. Border box. And why are we going to do it? We're going to do it because we want to set our width in a very easy to manage setting. So we're going to make each column 30% wide. So we're going to give them each a width of 30%. And you may be asking, well, wait a minute. If it's 30%, when we're done, we're going to have 10% left over. Yes, we will. Actually, 30, I might want to do 32 instead. Let me change it. If I did 33, I wouldn't have enough. If I do 32, 32 times 3 is 96. That gives us 4% to work with. And we're going to divide up the 4% into a 2% here and a 2% there, and we're going to add it through margin. Okay? So how are we going to do this? Okay. We can target, if we know it's 3-column, we can add a right-hand margin to our first item and a left-hand margin to our last item. So let's just do that right now. So it's call-3, first child. Thank you, CSS3, for adding first child, last child, and nth child. Oh, that was the bell. I'm going to go ahead and finish this out. That would be a margin right, 2%. A margin left. Oh, wait, I don't want to do that. And then I'm going to do the same thing for last child, like so. And it's going to be margin left. Those 4%, 2 and 2, plus 32 times 3 ends us with 100%. When we are done, we now have a little bit of margin, and we can fiddle with those later. Okay, fine. Let's change it. Let's get the 10%. So we go back here. Let's make it 30% here. Now it's going to be, well, see, that only gives us 2.5% on each of these. You want more, you can play with it. Go ahead and hit refresh. The other thing you can do is you can add some padding in there. Oh, we need to get rid of our margin on the other sides. So let's just add a margin of 0. Save our changes. Hit refresh. Yeah, we still have a margin on the right-hand side. I will deal with that later. Oh, no, I'm sorry. We have 10%. That gives me 5 on each side. Duh. Here we go. Now we have enough space. There we go. I think we're good. Stay tuned for more. On the next video, I'm going to cover responsive design, and I'm going to turn our links into buttons.